All right, so where should I start? Well, hello everyone. Welcome to my very first podcast and right now, honestly, I feel very overwhelmed because I'm basically just talking to myself and I can't really connect my thoughts together. So, this is going to be a very rough first episode. But there's a lot of things I want to talk about. Since it's the first episode, I just want to talk about the purpose of this podcast that I basically want to try and do for the future and basically tell you who I am. Hello, my name is Junior or Toast. It doesn't really matter between the two. I don't really prefer whichever. And the purpose of this podcast that I want to make is it's gonna be like a very broad term. It's very like defined in my head that I can't really explain, but I hopefully like down the line, because I am working in 3D and what I'm trying to do is basically do like show and not tell sort of thing, blah 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 blah. But among like the broad term, the word emotions. And so I wanted to talk about people's experiences and their emotions towards things basically and how other people think. And I always thought it was always interesting because as for me, I always think constantly, even if it's like such a little thing. I don't know. I wouldn't really say it's like anxiety or something like that, but I overthink too much. And so I always thought like, what do other people think about this and that? And, segue into that, I've always had this thought in my head. I had this thought for like 2 to 3 years from now. And ever since then, I've always, like, till this day, I've always stuck with it. And I've made this render, I made this picture in Blender where there's like a tree and basically there's a bench in the sky together. And hopefully I show it somewhere on the screen or something like that. But I wanted to have this vision where, two people or maybe like three people come together and we basically cross paths. So basically, every single person has different experiences, and among over time, we cross paths. And so, with this image that I'm trying to portray in this, is that there's so many things that have happened to every single person that we finally got together and sat down and finally have a conversation. The reason why I sort of made this picture to be sort of up in the air is for the fact that me and you and whoever is listening to this podcast is we're all of us are basically having a conversation together at the same level. At least I suppose so. And so whenever I have guests on here, I've always wanted to insinuate that image in their head that we may have the different experiences in our lives, but we came so far to have this conversation and be able to sit down right here. And that's where I wanted to get to know the person, get to know what they feel about something, what they think about. And I couldn't think of a title for the podcast, but I know I wanted to have the word bench in it because two people, three people are sitting on a bench enjoying, and they're up in the sky and it's like peaceful and stuff like that. I hope the picture really depicts what I'm trying to say. And if not, there's many more things I would do in the future to keep exploring or keep like this idea and expand more basically. All right, so the name of this podcast that I wanted to call it was Bench X. It's nothing really spontaneous or anything like that. Even if I wanted to make it spontaneous, I wanted to make it pretty simple. But it's very self-explanatory. It's just we both sit on a bench, and everyone's able to listen, talk to each other, and the X is just the part where there's two different lines where two different experiences, two different people, and then we finally cross together where we sit down, and we are in the same level to at least try to have a nice conversation basically. So at least that's what I want to show in this podcast, really. Yeah, and so I don't know how long this podcast will go on for, but I will try as long as I can because I have like introvert energy, meaning like where I talk to someone and then my social battery just like dies after like one day of conversation, and then I'm good for like almost like 1 to 2 weeks basically. And so some other things I wanted to talk about is the things that I do. I have a YouTube channel. It's called Tosuiter. I've made like YouTube videos maybe like 4 or 5 years ago, like a long time ago as well, when YouTube was still pretty new, but I never became consistent because you sort of have that YouTube mindset of oh, the YouTube views are not coming in or something like that. So, and plus nowadays it's just like, you got to get the right thumbnail. If you don't get the right thumbnail, then you can't catch people's attention. It's all this marketing stuff. Like, I understand and stuff. I only have like 2 videos up right now. So they're basically both like, one's like I play Monster Hunter, and then the other one I just have a sword animation that I worked on for like 1 whole month. You can go ahead and check that out. Right now, I am currently still doing 3D modeling. I am doing like 3D sculpting, and so far it's been pretty fun. And to give you an image of what kind of 3D sculpts is that guess you can say I'm just like your basic weeb. I guess you can say. Really trying to make 3D anime models right now. And other than that, I also like to make environments too. And so having the combination between the two is I always thought it was really cool to have your own space, your own sandbox space, and then just like make anything out of it. Basically what I'm trying to say is that I want to make my own world. I want to make my own world that would betray my image of basically my goals. Hopefully along the way, I will try to give you guys like my main goal of what I try to achieve with doing all this Blender and stuff like that. So I'm very excited. That's all I can really say. So if you guys want to tune in and into the journey, just hit that subscribe button. And every single day I try my best to at least I don't know, maybe make a video a month or something like that. Maybe to make 2 videos a month, which is not a lot compared to the YouTube standard right now. But doing anything 3D takes time, and I'm at the very early stage of learning 3D right now, and it's been a year so far. It's only been a year, and I haven't really been consistent. There were times where I just like took a break because mental health. I just like didn't feel, I wouldn't say motivated, but I just did not feel the need of I want to do Blender right now. And then there's other times where I desire to do other things basically. But right now I'm like full on learning Blender every single day, because to me doing Blender is like playing a video game. It's the more like hours you put into it, the better you get, which is every single video game that you play. But if I really think of it of like the Steam, because they show you like statistics in your Steam account, it shows you like 10 hours played. Like I'm mentally thinking of that in my head, that okay, I need to get like 100 hours of like Blender experience. So that's what I'm trying to do. Besides of me being a weeb, I am learning Japanese right now. It's been currently like 9 months so far, but I haven't really spoken any like actual conversational Japanese. I just been doing a lot of input, and so I'm just learning a lot of the grammar, a lot of different words. And so if you haven't been into studying Japanese before, there's this like JLPT sort of ranking system. I wouldn't say ranking system, it's like levels. There's like levels. And so the leveling system goes from N5 to N1. And so what this basically entails is that N5 is like the easiest in terms of like vocabulary and grammar and all that sort of stuff, and then N1's like very difficult. And it's said like um most Japanese people, they only use up to like maybe N3 or like N2 vocabulary and grammar, I believe. So I would like to get to that point. I would more than gladly like be happy to understand most of the words that I listen to. And so right now I'm just like doing a lot of immersion where I'm just watching videos in Japanese, listening to music in Japanese, which, that doesn't really help, but it's still gonna give me like that hardwire of, hey, you should listen to more Japanese songs so then you can somewhat get a feel of how the sounds of their language goes. Either way, I've right now I just don't listen to any English music. I just listen to Japanese music and I just enjoy them more. That's all I can say. A very pointless thing to point out. So if anyone wants to have a conversation in Japanese, I'm all for it because I have never done a actual conversation, a real conversation in Japanese yet. So, all I can say is that I'm very nervous. You do what you got to do. I do what I have to do. But recently I just been watching a lot more conversational videos between two people, and it's just getting to the point where it's like when you're trying to learn a new language, it's like solving a 1,000 piece puzzle. Piece by piece, you start to learn, of course, like all the new vocab and grammar. And so I'm getting to the point where I'm finally understanding what they're saying. And so I enjoy like watching a lot more YouTube videos, and it makes me laugh, like genuinely makes me laugh without having to like stop, check the vocab, or sometimes I even watch, I mean, at first I did this, but at first I just watch a lot of translated Japanese videos, and then afterwards I go watch it back. I'm like, oh, okay, I remember this and that. So those were always fun to watch. And then afterwards, once you sort of get to a level where you start to understand more, and then you start to look at like the English translation and then like the Japanese actual like listening part of it, you're like, well, you sort of have to like take the English subtitles with a grain of salt now, because the whole point to sort of now listening to more Japanese or like reading Japanese subtitles is to have a somewhat understanding of the phrase, instead of like, there's no mathematic equation of English to Japanese. It's a whole different language, right? So it's just been fun. I have fun every single day learning Japanese and grammar and stuff like that. Even if I feel like there's some words or there's some grammar that's not used frequently, I still have fun with it, because there be occasions where I just like, oh, I know that grammar, or like I know that word, but then afterwards it just never pops up ever again. I guess I can get more into like the 3D process and what my experience is. And so I first started 3D back in like June. Yeah, that's when I first started. And I honestly don't remember the reason why I started doing 3D, but I always remember watching so many videos of like the Blender Guru. And he just has so many fascinating videos of how to make stuff, of course, and how to make things like look realistic. And at first I was like, oh, that's pretty cool, because I like making things. I like making things, like I said before, really, like I like making my own world. I can make something from scratch, and I always felt like somewhat of a reason why I'm wanting to learn Japanese is that I feel I have a hunger to like learn things. Blender, when you just open it up, it's just like you get thrown with so many buttons and so many options. Just like, I don't know what the heck is happening, like literally. And so at first I just went through like a whole maybe like 2-3 hour video of like the basics. And as soon as I got done with all the basics, I literally just started just doing my own stuff. Sure, you can watch like a lot of tutorials, but that's not really much of the learning process. And right now, when I'm doing like all this sculpting stuff, and even back then, I always thought that I always wanted to be like perfect within every render, but sometimes it's just like maybe someone's not gonna even care about the detail, the small details sometimes, right? Because you're probably uploading it on social media, and it's like you can't even really tell, not unless it's being posted on something big or like on a website. Then yeah, that's different. But other than that, what I'm trying to get at is that perfection was probably the number one killer to sort of like trying to move on with the process, because you keep making minor changes here and there every single time. And so you just sort of like keep weighing yourself down, like, oh, this isn't perfect. Like, I can't upload to social media. But then once I sort of got out of that mindset, it's just like, well, this is really just stopping my progress. So there's really no point to being perfect, because there's just no point. Perfect doesn't exist, right? Perfect doesn't really exist. And other than that, the more and more you do it, of course, the more you fail. And so that's really the goal here. Is if I'm trying to make a sculpt and I see something that's like, I just can't understand it, I'm just gonna literally just start all over, because there's no point in trying to fix it. I'm just gonna be like, okay, so I see the problem, I see where I failed with it, I'm just gonna start all over. And that's what I did in the Blender, not in the Blender world, in the 3D world of like making meshes, or if anyone knows, this is like doing retopology and stuff like that. I'm starting to do retopology, and it's basically like a skeleton for a model in any game, basically. And so in the professional world, doing retopology helps because it basically saves the game memory. I first started doing retopology and I failed like at least 3-4 times. I'm like, I can't understand it. And the more and more I kept doing it, the more and more it got worse. So then I literally just like, okay, scratch this. I literally scratched like doing the retopology like 3-4 times. And then when I got to like basically to the 4th time, it actually like looked nicer. I just kept looking up references of, okay, so this is how you do retopology around the eyes, how you do the mouth and the head, and I've been learning a lot basically. So it's been a challenge, of course, when you start to learn something new, but in the end it's really worth it, because you understand more of what game developers go through, or any person that has to work like in movies and stuff like that. And so it takes time. It takes a lot of time. That's all I can really say. So there's what was I talking about again? I forgot. But yeah, so I started doing Blender back in June. I don't know the reason why. Again, like I said, with like Blender Guru and stuff like that, and so I thought that was pretty cool. Right now I have like 2 like environment renders that I've made. It's up in my Instagram. It's also under the name Tosuder as well. And it's the first picture that I showed up in this podcast, or in this video, whatever format you're watching. And the second one is, I don't really know what to describe the second one, actually. Well, all I can really say is that every render that I at least try to make, or every environment render that I try to make, has like some sort of a story. So I make some sort of description at the bottom. If you want to read it, go right ahead. If you like it, go right ahead. I'm just trying to make as much renders as I possibly can, or at least what I think it's high quality. Right now, I guess I can say at the time, yeah, it was basically high quality, but right now it's like, what the heck did I do? So later down the line, I would definitely just like look back and be like, okay, I gotta remaster this. This has to get remastered, just like Final Fantasy VII or something like that. Remake. I guess other things I can talk about is like, I don't know if you know my hobbies. Like, I don't like the number one hobby that I guess in terms of video games at least is rhythm games. I'm like obsessed with so many rhythm games that I'll just see someone play it. I'm like, I gotta play it. It looks so fun. I have a rhythm game on my desktop. I bought it for like $5. It's pretty popular. It's like the Dance of Ice and Fire, and I haven't really taken the time to play. But right now, I've been playing Hatsune Miku Project Diva Mega Mix Plus, I believe. It's on Steam right now. And I just saw someone play it. I'm like, I like the songs of it. I like the gameplay of it. So I'm like, why haven't I had this yet? And so I literally just downloaded probably like yesterday, and I've just been playing already like 5 hours, like almost 6 hours already. So I'm obsessed with rhythm games. Another one I played for like a phase was Osu. Been playing Osu for like 5-6 years now. Pretty bad at it right now. I'm having the case of basically finger locking, which I can't really tap. I can't click circle fast enough. And let's see, Mustache, that's on Steam, and another Hatsune Miku one that's on mobile. And so yeah, all these games that I'm describing, definitely not sponsored. I'm definitely not sponsored by these games at all. But I really do enjoy these games. They're really fun. So props to you developers that are making these games. And if you guys have a rhythm game, I would definitely like to try out. There's this rotating rhythm game that's like on the phone. It looks pretty cool. I might try it one day. I'm not entirely sure. So I go through a phase of so many different rhythm games. It's just like I gotta play this for like hours, and then I might calm down for a bit. So I do have the phase of, okay, I'm gonna play a lot of games, and then I'm having more phases of, okay, I'm gonna work on more Blender or study more Japanese. Yeah, so that's all I can really say for now of like who I am and what I basically do at the moment. Again, this is like the first episode, so I'm like nervous. I'm like can't really think so much. Brain cell can't work right now. So I want to make an addition of to why I want to make this podcast, right? I want to tell people is to not give up. But just telling that people alone for me is like, it's just simple. Like you just tell people not to give up. So the work that I'm doing currently, like learning 3D and doing like all this learning of Japanese and all these other stuff that I'm going to do in the future, I really want to involve this idea of to not give up. I feel like this idea in my head is very important because there's many people that we cross paths amongst each other, and we hear their stories, and sometimes when something like unfortunate comes up, I always think in my head like, don't give up. But other than that, it's like there's something more in my head that I wanted to tell them than just say don't give up. I really want to involve this idea. And so I hope if whoever's like subscribed to my channel or followed my Instagram or stuff like that, or continuously listening to this podcast, I really want to at least like have this idea in everyone's heads that even if you feel like you're at the bottom of the ocean, just keep telling yourself, don't give up, don't give up, don't give up. Because I always imagine there's at least like there's something up there that if you're at below of the bottom of the sea, I feel like there's always something above the ocean for you to swim up to. There's always some sort of light that you can swim up to, and everyone knows that life is up and down, but if you're at the very bottom, I want to say just don't give up. Even if you have to lie down at the bottom of the sea for like days, weeks, just know like just don't, whatever you do, don't give up. There is something up there for you. I wouldn't say it's waiting, but whenever you ever have the feeling that you're ready to swim up there, just take your time as well. Just take your time as well. And yeah, so I guess that will be the end of my first podcast. Again, if you enjoy listening to this, go ahead and follow the Spotify. I don't know. I'm planning to have this on Spotify or something like that, or other. If you're listening to this on YouTube, make sure to hit the subscribe button and also like. I would very much appreciate it. And yeah, and just look forward to what's in the future, because I will, try my best to put out quality content. I'm not gonna hold any promises. I'm not gonna make any promises if I, saying this, but I will try my best. Again, thank you for listening. If you're just like one person, two people listening to this, I very much appreciate it. So, thank you.